The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
All right, everyone. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. My name's Ryan McCarthy. I'm your host. And to my right is a man who wants your vote today, but you probably already voted. So, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are you doing tonight?
Doing okay. I'm glad I voted early because it seems pretty busy out there. So glad I got that out of the way last week. And I'm feeling basked in love after this past weekend because, as many of you probably know, due to the incessant promotion that we did on this podcast, Extra Life was last weekend, game day, and Ryan made an appearance. He is one of the MVPs of Fall Guys. He qualified more than I did. But that was one of the most fun moments of the stream. Everybody was in the chat talking. Everybody was talking. You and I were talking. It was a good time, but I don't know how streamers who are full-time do it, because I had trouble focusing on the game and then who was in my ear and then talking to you. And then,
Right.
It was wild. But most importantly, we raised, thanks to a generous donation from both of your parents today.
Oh,
They officially put us over the $1,000 mark. So we have raised collectively $1,055 for sick kids in the Albany area for the Bernard and Millie Duker Hospital. That is the most important thing. So we've been talking off air, Ryan. We've been cooking. We may do a little mini holiday stream, towards the holidays, because I want to see your punch out skills. I think it'd be fun. But I hope you had a good time. Thanks for coming by. I had a great time, and I'm going to keep doing it. I love doing it. So, but I'm ready to talk some football with you. I hope you're ready, because I only made it 16 hours, partially because I knew I had to prep for this podcast, and I didn't want to miss all the games. So
yeah.
here we are.
Here we are. You did your job raising that money. Let's do Dustin a little bit of praise music, shall we? Okay.
And lastly, if you feel so inclined, if you're saying, man, I would have liked to donate, I missed it. No, you didn't. The event is open until December 31st. So you can still go to extra-life.org and search my name, Dustin Henry, and you will find, there it is. Ryan's got it pulled up. That's why he's the best in the business.
There's Dustin's handsome face. He's got $1,055 banked for the Bernard and Millie Duker Children's Hospital. His goal is $1,300, so he's got about $245 left, so he can get it in by December 31st. Like Dustin mentioned, we might do a little bit of a retro stream, sometime in December to reach the goal, get us over the finish line, carry the ball over, as some of the politicians would say, get the ball over the goal line. Well, I don't know how certain candidates would word it, but we're in the fourth quarter. We need to move the ball inch by inch. And it's like, okay, it's fourth down, dude. What do you do? But we want to get Dustin to his goal of $1,300. He has $245 left to go. You have this till December 31st, which is the end of the calendar year. So you can actually kind of count it towards your count it towards your tax deductible. It's tax deductible, so you can write it off your taxes, which is really cool. So yeah, so congrats to Dustin for raising that money, doing the live stream thing. Yeah, I just showed up for moral support and brought beers. So
I got to have one of the Dumans while I was enjoying football on Sunday. It was very nice. I took my time drinking it.
That's a beer you gotta take your time drinking. Unlike me on Friday when I pretty much down at the entire for the show during the end of the show, you can kind of tell. Oh, that's hitting Ryan That's hitting Ryan.
Well, that was one of the people we were streaming with. She drank a 14% beer, and let me tell you, she was having a good time during Fall Guys.
She's having a gay old time.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're going to get to what we're going to talk about tonight on No Credentials Required. But before we do that, I just want to remind you to follow us on social media, facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, the scarcely used TikTok @NoCredsREQ, and youtube.com/@NoCredsREQ, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, wherever you podcast. And don't forget to get notified on Twitter, I refuse to call it X, and on YouTube. That way you know when we go live. That way you know when recordings of the Three Rails Metro Hockey podcast go up.
Yeah.
We had episode 3, recorded episode 3 on Sunday, put it up on Monday. Let's just say it went off the rails a little bit with Dan, with the Mr. Smooth. As
is his want to do.
As is his want to do. But he had drinks. He had himself he calls it, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to the episode or watch the episode yet, but he had something called he had a drink called Jack and Jill Went Down the Hill. So he'll explain, it's his own recipe. He'll explain it. But we definitely had some fun with roasting Kyle Dubas, the general manager of the Pittsburgh Penguins. But in the meantime, rate and review, they help the show. 5-star rating would help. If you're on a platform where you can review the podcast, leave us a review. Also, on Spotify, you can leave comments for every episode. So if you leave a comment, every one of those comments, reviews, ratings, comments in here, they help the show. And we're a live show Tuesdays at 7:05 Eastern, although we're a little bit late tonight. That's on me. We'll go back to Saturday mornings. This weekend will be on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. previewing the rest of the NFL in week 10. We're at week 10 already. My goodness.
Unbelievable.
Unreal. But if you're watching live or you're watching on replay on YouTube or on Rumble or on Facebook or on Twitter, leave us a comment. And I got some, I had a rough day at work today, Dustin, but this sun always makes me feel better when I'm feeling down.
Oh, bring on the chimes.
Bring it on. And we do have some comments already in the comments section. Julie from Michigan saying, "Hi, gentlemen." Hey, Julie. Your resident Detroit fan is here. I took a break from election coverage to come over here. Well, thanks, Julie.
Excellent. Excellent. We hope to bring some levity to your election day.
Yes. Vote for us. Speaking of the aforementioned Daniel Smooth, he says, "Dustin, I expect your honest to God thoughts on the Hawks."
Oh, you'll get them.
He says, "I think this is a rebuild/retool season for Seattle. Hawks Twitter has to lower their expectations."
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Wonka the Sane joining us. He's taking a break from election coverage, saying from election news, and congrats to Dustin and Extra Life.
Oh, thank you, Wonko. Thank you very much. It's good to have you on the show, in the comments, watching along.
Mm-hmm.
Always nice to see you.
And Stainless Smooth, me commenting about the Three Rails Metro Hockey podcast. Says, "Hell yeah, son!" And he said the drink is called Jack and Gin Went Down the Hill. I thought it was Jack and Jill. Sorry.
Yeah, Jack and Gin. Okay, that makes sense.
He gives the recipe. 3 shots of dry gin plus Jack of any kind in a chill glass.
Oh, man. Okay, so the next time I don't want to function anymore, I'll drink that. Because that would probably hit me like a ton of bricks. My tolerance isn't what it once was, Daniel. I'll nurse a glass of whiskey for I do drink them neat most times, but I'll nurse one for a good hour or so while I smoke a cigar. That's my pace now.
He had his with a Death Star ice cube.
Oh man, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That was pretty cool. All right, let's talk about, at least it helps being Irish, German, and Italian. So yeah, definitely does help. All right, we're gonna talk about week 9. We touched on Thursday Night Football on our Friday show, but let's talk about the week that was week 9 in the NFL. What caught our eye? Let's start off with the most entertaining game. And Dustin, I'm gonna have you lead it off. In your eyes, what was the most entertaining game of week 9?
Well, while the Rams Seahawks game was an entertaining game, it was painful to watch. Lots of penalties. I'll get into the game later because that game, I don't usually get angry at football anymore, but that one did it. That one did it. But the most entertaining game for me was the Bills versus the Dolphins. Okay, even though everyone collectively holds their breath while Tua's out there, if he runs at all,
my gosh,
at least that's what I do, and I think a lot of people are with me. You cannot deny the impact that having him under center has on the Dolphins' offense. It makes them into a different team. But the surprising thing is they didn't really focus on their two wideouts in this game. Jalen Waddle was relatively quiet until late. We'll get into that. And then, but Devon Achane, he was all over the field. And the Bills are probably, I'm sorry, Ryan, but the Bills are probably going to wrap up this division by Thanksgiving or so. And the Bills, the one Achilles heel that they have that I see is their run defense can be had, and it was shown in this game. Devon Achane ran the ball all over the place. He also was catching it out of the backfield. He was one of their primary weapons on offense, and the two teams kind of went back and forth. They traded field goals a little bit to start off the game, and then it looked like the Bills were going to start taking off. They had a James Cook look good running the ball. Ty Johnson looked okay at times running the ball as well. And Josh Allen started doing Josh Allen things. He started extending plays. They didn't have Amari Cooper for this game, which I did not know going into this game. I thought he would be there. I was focused on other things Saturday, so I wasn't checking football status as much. But man, they acquainted themselves well, as they always do. But and Ray Davis, he looks like his talent just shoots off the screen every time I watch him. Josh Allen hit him for a long yards after the catch touchdown in this one. So the teams kind of went back and forth, and Tua proved his importance to the Miami Dolphins offense because they look like a different team with him in there.
Right.
And Jalen Waddle was very quiet. I believe his second catch of the game was the touchdown that the Dolphins got to tie the game up. Whereas where 2 plays earlier, he looked like his season was over. A Bills player, I think, hit him with his cleat. Jalen's got a cleat to the look like the Achilles or something on the back of that. The way he went down, I'm going, oh no, he's out. And then 2 plays later, he scores a touchdown.
Yeah,
it was pretty unbelievable. But then Tyler Bass with a walk-off 61-yard field goal to end the game after missing what I believe was either a short distance field goal or an extra point earlier in the game. Very entertaining game, surprisingly competitive, but the Bills are able to get another win, and if they shore up that run defense, they're going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, they have an interesting schedule the rest of the way. So they're at Indianapolis next week. I don't know who Indianapolis is right now.
Yeah.
They're a lot better offensively compared to this week withstanding when Joe Flacco's playing for Indy, their offense is a lot better.
Yeah.
But then they're at home against the Chiefs, the 49ers, they're at the Rams, at the Lions.
Yeah.
And then they have the Patriots sandwiched in with the Jets for the last 3 weeks of the season. So could they win the division? Yeah, certainly they could, but they got a little bit of a tough road ahead of them. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do down the road. I mean, they got a four-game winning streak right now. I was surprised that Miami played them this tough the way that they've been playing this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, Miami's offense is starting to pick up a little bit. And like you said, it's a noticeable difference between having Tua in the lineup and then having Skylar Thompson or
Hunley
or Tyler Hunley or who else? Tim Boyle.
Oh yeah,
in the backfield. So yeah, it's a noticeable difference, but they can't finish games.
No,
They showed it last week against the Cardinals. They couldn't finish that game. It's 2 weeks. And it's 2 weeks in a row they lose by a field goal.
Yeah,
on either the last play of the game or the next to last play of the game.
Yeah.
So I thought Miami was frauds coming in. That's why this episode this week is called Week 9. Showed us dogs and frauds. Buffalo's a dog. And I said from the onset of the season, I thought Miami was a dog. And of course I was right. Or not a dog, a fraud. And of course I'm right. So hate to say it, and that's not because it's not a slight to any Dolphins fan out there.
No.
But I just always thought they were.
Yeah. And and honestly, you have to wonder, because this is not just a one-off this season. Mike McDaniel, for all of the Dolphins' offensive prowess during his tenure there, it seems like they can't finish games and they can't beat the good teams. Right. So you have to wonder how much longer Mike McDaniel will be the coach there.
Yeah, I'm intrigued as well. So for me, the most entertaining game is going to sound kind of weird considering the final, considering what it was. Jaguars Eagles. So for the 1 o'clock games, I went to my local watering hole because I hadn't been there in a while, and to watch an NFL game. Shout out to the factory. Always good service, always good people there. But the 4 o'clock games were, and this is where I get really frustrated with the NFL in terms of their scheduling with the 4 o'clock games and the 1 o'clock games. They seem to cram in the 1 o'clock games.
Yeah.
Then the 4 o'clock games are like sprinkled in. It's like,
yep.
Come on, really? And Tim and was it Dan Campbell had a really interesting quote after the Lions-Packers game about, the NFL doesn't really seem to pay attention, when the 1 o'clock games are going on, but when the 4 o'clock games are going on, that's where they seem to pay the most attention, because one of his players got thrown out of the game after being ejected. But the Lions went up winning that game. So we'll talk about dogs and frauds in the NFC North in a little while. But to me, like I said, the 4 o'clock games, they were kind of okay.
Yeah.
Seahawks and Rams withstanding. Cardinals Bears was. I'll talk about that in a moment or two. But Jaguars Eagles was really surprising because everyone thought the Eagles were going to run away with this game, considering how Jacksonville had been playing lately, and the Eagles have been kind of I'll say they're wishy-washy.
Yeah.
Their defense is playing all right. Their offense is still kind of out to sea a little bit without really an award. They don't know who they are. They got Jalen Hurts, they got Nick Sirianni. They can't seem to get on the same page. And Saquon Barkley is basically carrying the team.
He is. Backwards hurdle. Did you see that thing?
Literally and figuratively speaking, he is carrying this team.
I was going to pick him for my best performance, but I was like, I've picked running backs like the last 3 weeks. Yeah. I can't pick another one.
Spoiler alert, I picked a running back. But the Jaguars kept it close. They kept things close. Trayvon Walker scoop and score. If you saw a scoop and score, that was a pretty amazing play. I forgot who fumbled for the Eagles, but Trayvon Walker picks it up. You think he's going to be tackled, but no, he breaks from the pack and he runs all the way to the end zone for a touchdown. And then Eagles score late. They get a stop on defense. They try to kick the field goal for the nail in the coffin. They miss. Actually, no, I'm sorry. The Jaguars score a touchdown. Then the Eagles get it back. They miss a field goal that would have sealed the game for sure. And the Jaguars march down the field and almost almost get a touchdown. Nakobe Dean with his first ever career interception to seal the game in what could have been a monumental upset. And if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm not only collectively holding, like, giving a big sigh of relief, but I'm wondering how. And we talked about this with Cool McCann a few weeks ago. The fans they want to fire Nick Sirianni.
Yeah,
they're winning games, but they still want to fire him because of these coaching decisions that he's making.
Yep.
So
I will talk about one of them at the end of the show.
Yeah, foreshadow. This thing called foreshadowing. But this was an entertaining game just because of the fact that this could have been a huge upset because the Eagles were favored by so much, and that was just an incredible game and an incredible finish. And Eagles fans are lucky that their team is still a game behind Washington, who beat the Giants on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They're lucky that they're still behind. I think they're one game behind Washington for that lead. That division is going to come down to Washington and Philly for sure, because the Giants stink again. Yeah. Dallas, Gerald Jones is in denial.
Oh yeah, they're going to have a magical season, Ryan. A storybook finish.
Oh yeah. With their quarterback who they overpaid, tearing his hamstring, and they trade for Markevious Wingo, who's not going to really help with the pass rush, because their problem's not the pass rush. The problem is the offense. They have no run game. So that to me was the most entertaining game. Eagles and the Jaguars, because of the potential upset there. All right, biggest upset of the week. I'll go with this one. Biggest upset, and really the only upset this week.
Yeah.
Because everything else kind of went in order. The Panthers and the Saints. And this was one of those games. I sent a text to you, and I also posted it on Twitter, my personal Twitter account @WhoIsRyanMCC. Go ahead and follow that. I said, Saints, because I saw that the Saints, the CBS and Fox traded games this week. They traded in one game. This game, Saints and Panthers went to CBS, while Bengals Raiders went over to Fox. And I'm like, boy, they must have seen both those games on paper and thought, you know what? You can have this one. You can have this one. So, looking at this game, if you saw the stat line, and hey, do you remember when New Orleans was 2-0?
Oh yeah.
And all these pundits were saying they can make a run at the NFC South. Yeah, me neither.
Do.
Yeah, me neither. Panthers were 7.5-point underdogs going into this game at home.
Wow.
Looking for their second win. And again, it's one of those games when CBS and Fox saw two games in the schedule saying, you can have this one.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the Spiro Didi's game of the week. That was the Browns and Chargers. And that lived up to every D-list game that you could think of. That was terrible. I'm sitting in the bar. I was actually watching the Falcons Panthers, because that game intrigued me the most of all the early games. And right next to it was Browns and Chargers. So I'm going, this game is awful. Terrible.
No, that was really bad.
But on the TV next to that was Saints and Panthers, and I kept looking at the TV, and I see the Saints having the ball. The Saints have the ball, and they're doing their thing, and I think they caused a turnover, if I'm not mistaken. But the Saints led in every offensive statistical category. Passing yards, they rushed for 180 yards.
Yeah, I mean, Alvin Kamara, you can't argue with what he's done.
What he's done, he's the MVP of that team for sure. Had the ball for over 35 minutes, but they didn't lead in one statistical category, and that was in points. Because Chuba Hubbard, he was the Undertaker, taking Dennis Allen's tenure in New Orleans to the grave with 2 rushing touchdowns. And the next day, on Monday, Dennis Allen was sent adrift into the waters of the Gulf of Mexico by owner Tom Benson. I have no idea who is the interim head coach. I don't care either, because I'm not New Orleans Saints don't affect me. They're not in my division. But to me, this was arguably the upset of the week. And that score line, after the starting 2-0 and losing the next 7, it has Saints fans doing this. Also potential foreshadowing, but that's for other events.
Oh, man. I will say, though, I saw something, and I usually don't. This is not meant to throw shade at Derek Carr, but it was a funny thing. It said Dennis Allen has been fired twice as a head coach, and both times Derek Carr was quarterbacking the team. And I was like, oh, jeez.
Yep.
That's rough.
Oof. So that was my biggest upset of the week because of how the Saints were favored. The Saints, remember, in week 1, the Saints beat the brakes off this team.
Oh,
by
yeah.
a tune of like 41-10.
Mm-hmm.
Then here we are, 8 weeks later, 2 months later, full 2 months later, and they're losing this game. And interestingly enough, I gotta say this: Bryce Young played pretty well. Only had 1 turnover, but he played okay.
Yeah,
he played okay for that. He played okay. I would like to see. I like to see what Dave Canales can do with Young, with Andy Dalton being hurt.
yeah.
I had a couple of games to kind of really sit back and learn and figure out the speed of the game. The defense played okay. They only allowed 22 points, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what the Panthers do from here on out. I mean, they could lose the rest of the games during the season, but I predicted the Saints would be last place in the division.
You did
during our preview.
Mm-hmm.
So Rice for Thomas is spreading seeds.
The powers are going. Powers are going.
Powered by Invader Coffee. Promo code BELLYUP at checkout. Use our link in the description. So not in this description, but to you, Dustin, how about you? What's the biggest upset this week?
Well, I didn't really have one, to be honest. Like I said, I saw what game you picked, and I said, that game is really the only game that you could pick because everything else went according to plan, the way that I thought it would go. Although I would think I thought that the Lions would beat the Packers, but I didn't think it would be as one-sided as it ended up being. But that is not an upset. So everything that you said about the Saints Panthers is true. I mean, good on Bryce Young. Everything that's been thrown at him. We all know the Panthers ownership group is not the best, and it was a big win for them. Big win.
Yeah, big win for them. Yeah, because they avoided last place in the NFC South. That's probably the first time I've said that sentence in a long time. Before we go to our next category, let's look at the comment section. Welcome to Sane checking in. He says, "I'll have what the gentleman on the floor is having." Referring to the Jack and Gin went down the hill.
Yeah.
And saying else he was saying Broncos Chiefs might be a trap game for KC. We'll talk about that on Saturday morning. We'll save that for Saturday morning. Julie saying Tim Boyle used to be a backup for the Lions. Interesting to see where he ended up. Yep.
He's had a journey.
He's had a journey. He's a journeyman quarterback, which means he'll be a good head coach in the day. That's for sure. Yeah. Cold Iron checking in says, should have voted you for president, Ryan. I don't want that responsibility.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Because when I come to power, there's a lot of changes going to happen.
A
lot of changes. Also says, how is KC still undefeated? Are they going to complete their three-peat 72 Dolphin style?
I hope not.
Well, you don't have to worry about Mercury Morris anymore. Just Larry Zonka.
I wasn't going to take shots.
I wasn't taking a shot.
I know, but it was just funny the way you said it. You're like, oh, you don't have to worry about him anymore. But he was the one because he was always out there.
Leader.
He was always out there.
Stay on smooth thing. #refball. And I asked when I asked that if everybody remembers when the pundits were saying that the Saints could challenge for the NFC South. He says Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yes.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
They always remember.
He also says Tank Bowl regarding the Panthers and Saints. Also asks, here's a brilliant question. How is Saints GM Mickey Loomis still employed?
He has pictures of Tom Benson in compromising positions.
I mean, it's New Orleans. I'm not surprised. Also, I was today years old when I learned that there was a general manager named Mickey Loomis in the NFL.
You didn't know that?
No.
That's one of those names that once you hear it, you kind of like remember it. And that's just like when everybody remember who was it? It was a coach for Detroit. He was Jim Bob Cooter, and everybody was like, "How is that real?"
He's the OC.
Yeah. He was their OC for like a while too.
Yeah, Mickey Loomis sounds like a guy who runs a bar somewhere in Boston. He has that kind of name.
I'm going to go down to Clover's.
We're going to Patty's.
Yeah.
Julie says Chubba Hubbard is my fantasy team, so that worked great for me. Cold Iron wasn't aware that Bryce Young got his job back only because of Andy Dalton's injury.
Yeah. Andy Dalton and the Dalton family were in a car accident. Thankfully, everyone is all right. Yeah. It's just that Andy hurt his wrist during that. That's the reason Bryce is back in the role.
Yeah. And Samuel Smooth saying that Mickey Loomis has been the Saints GM since 2006. Let's do some real-time research on that.
Yeah, I mean, he 2002. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's been I'm sorry. He was the Saints general manager from 2002 to 2012, and currently he's the executive vice president / general manager. So he's got two roles. Neither of which I think he'll have by the end of the season. All right, we're gonna move it right along and talk about the biggest disappointments, according to us, in Week 9 of the NFL. Dustin, biggest disappointment for you?
Oh, well, you were asking for it, Staniel. This is where we are in the show now. And I feel like something is going on with my mic. I hope nobody else can hear it, but I feel like it's clipping or something. I don't know. I got to look at it after the show.
We'll clean it up in audio. We'll clean it up in post.
Oh, well, thank you. Man, Geno Smith. Geno Smith is the biggest disappointment, and I have been on record as saying that Geno doesn't deserve all the hate he gets, and that he's really kind of rebuilt his career in Seattle, and that the team has other problems, but people like to blame it on Geno because the quarterback is the easiest position to throw shade at. But here's the thing, okay? Geno threw for 363 yards. He also threw for 3 touchdowns. That's the good. However, a lot of his passes, his completion percentage was 61%, which is his lowest in a bit. And he also threw 3 interceptions, 2 of which went to the same guy, Cameron Kitchens, and 2 of which were red zone interceptions, Ryan. Red zone interceptions. Oof. And they destroyed drives. They killed the momentum. They killed a performance, a good second half performance by a Seahawks defense, which I said, will they be able to stop Kyren at all from running the ball, because they have not been able to stop the run? Will they be able to shut down the Saints receiving targets? And for the most part, in the second half, they did. It's why the Seahawks were in that game. It's why they had a shot to win that game. And Geno Smith throws those 3 picks. And like I said, 2 of them were red zone interceptions. And even the announcers were saying, because I was saying, I believe it was Jonathan Vilma, and I can't remember who else was calling that game with Vilma. But I don't know what Geno was looking at on those plays. Now, slightly in his defense, the Rams were pressuring him all day. They got to him. They sacked him 8 times. 8 times. But those throws were awful, Ryan. If you haven't seen them, go back and watch them. And one of the red zone picks that he threw was returned for a touchdown. So that that really killed, and that's why Geno is the biggest disappointment for me, because as much as it is the offensive line, which clearly it was a problem under the Pete Carroll era, and people put it at Pete because the personnel decisions, apparently he had final say. That was the whole thing. So we thought that they would finally address the offensive line. But the problem is, it appears that John Schneider still hasn't done it. I don't know whether the Seahawks have a problem grading offensive linemen. I don't know what it is, but you can't put it at Pete's feet anymore because he's not making the personnel decisions. We used to say Carroll doesn't want to spend money on an offensive line. Carroll can't draft an offensive line. Well, it is solely in Schneider's hands now, and it seems that the problems were not just on Pete. John Schneider can't grade offensive linemen either. They can't draft them. So, yes, Staniel is saying the offensive line is terrible, and it is. But also, you can't make those throws. Those throws were awful throws. They go back and watch them. Those were momentum killers, and he was overly relying on Jackson Smith and Jigba in that game, which we'll get to him later. But
I'm sorry, I'm reading the back-to-back comments, but go ahead, keep cooking.
But yeah, I mean, this team has got a lot of work to do. And for the idiots that are saying fire Coach Mike McDonald, come on,
stop.
We're games into his career,
Stop.
okay? And this team was not going to go to the Super Bowl anyway. I think any rational Seahawks fan knew that. Did we get swept up early when they started out 3-0 and they were looking good? I said, hey, maybe we have a chance at the division, maybe. But that was always going to be a tall order, because if the Niners had been healthy, this division would not be in doubt at all. And the Rams are getting right at the right time, but this team, the offensive line is the main problem, and it's not. The defense is coming together. Everybody wants to throw a bunch of crap on Mike McDonald and the defense. The defense has looked great at times, and like I said, they played fantastic in that second half, and it was ruined. It was ruined because of Geno's horrible interceptions. He was running for his life back there a lot of the times, but not on those throws. On those throws, I don't know what he was looking at.
Yeah, apparently this version of Geno Smith is the New York Jets Geno Smith. I remember those days. So this is the comment that Daniel Smooth says, Dustin, that offensive line is more garbage than my whale of an ex. Sam Howell couldn't play behind that line.
Yeah.
To which Wonka replied, maybe Geno should play behind your ex.
Hey, can she block? We'll put her out there. You know, that's the thing. I mean, you are right. Sam Howell, people are like, put Howell in now. No, he's not going to do any better. Okay. He's not going to do any better.
And
but still, Geno's throws, that's the reason, because despite all the other woes, defense was keeping us in that game. And Geno's red zone picks, 2 of which were to the same defender and 1 of which was thrown in return for a touchdown, killed that game.
Daniel Smooth saying she blocked me. LOL.
Oh, man.
He also broke. He says I broke Ryan.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Like I broke. Hey, look, he returned the favor. I broke him on this week's edition of 3 Rails, and he broke me in return. So,
oh man, he's a funny man. I always enjoy when he's guested on this podcast. And I remember he was filling in for me when I had a work engagement, but I was watching, and I broke him with Dollar Store Usher. He wasn't expecting that one. I put it in the comments.
Oh man. All right, for me, the biggest disappointment was the Bears and their effort against Arizona. I said on Saturday's program that the Bears had the potential to have a comeback game after a heartbreaking loss, losing in the way that they lost against Washington last week. I said they had the best potential for a bounce back game because they were playing the Arizona Cardinals, who again, we still don't know who they are. but they showed it. Actually, I think they're starting to show us who they are this week, especially with that effort against the Bears. But the Bears, what'd they do? They pooped the bed in a big way. And it was a god-awful effort on offense. What happened to their running game? What happened to DeAndre Swift? Oh, I know he was doing. He was cracking. He was helping the team helping the Cardinals get a safety on a crackback block or a chop block in the end zone. So there you go. 82 yards and a safety for his team. Now, I'll give credit where credit's due to the Bears defense. Bears defense, they did their job. They limited Kyler Murray, but they still allowed 3 rushing touchdowns, which doesn't really help their cause at all. And man, the Bears, a couple weeks ago, I said this was a team to look out for because they were playing Washington. They almost beat Washington in their home field. But now I think that game might have broken them a little bit. And it showed this week against again, a team that like the Cardinals, who I didn't really know who they were, but they're starting to show who they are. And I'm a little scared this week about for their game against the Jets, because the Jets got to travel down there in a late game. And if the Jets go off to a slow start against this Cardinals team, this might be another long day, especially after a long layoff. So, but hey, good news for everybody. You don't have to see the Jets in primetime anymore because they moved the night game against Indianapolis. The following next in week 11, it is now a 1:00 game. So you don't have to see the Jets in primetime anymore. You're welcome, America. So yeah, Caleb Williams played okay. Didn't have a turnover. Didn't have a touchdown either. And the Bears that effort was just awful. And I'm not mad. Just disappointed in you, Bears. Just disappointed. One more comment before we go to break. Derek from Staniel Smooth. Derek Carr reminds me of every 40-plus-year-old man who still loves 2002 Fall Out Boy and has an American Idiot chest tattoo featuring Avril Lavigne's face tattoo.
I mean, Derek Carr does kind of look like he still bumps Thursday in his ride. I don't know. But there was a lot of kids. There was a lot of kids back then, especially emo really hit when I was in college, Daniel. I think you might be a little younger than me, but I'm not sure. We might be in the same area, but yeah, it was a thing back then. And Derek Carr, he does kind of have that look to him sometimes.
And I will say this: 40-year-old Avril Lavigne.
Oh yeah.
Hey, good for her.
I'll talk to her about Skater Boys all she wants.
Same. Although I'm not a big skater. Yeah. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll address some of the other notable things that stuck out to us in week 9 of the NFL. So stay tuned. Stand by for more No Credentials Required.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
That's right, folks. SeatGeek, one of our premier sponsors, affiliate sponsors at Belly Up Sports. And I was informed during the stream, during Dustin's fundraiser on Saturday night. He asked me, his buddy Kenny was on the live stream with his lovely wife and amongst other people. And he asked me, hey, what are you doing a week from Sunday, the 17th? Like 2 weeks from Sunday, the 17th. I'm like, nothing. Says, you want to go to an Adirondack Thunder game? He goes, yes. And then yesterday, Dustin sent me the screenshot of where we're going to be sitting and the advantages and disadvantages. And I said, and it was on SeatGeek. It happened to be on SeatGeek, of course. And I said, make sure he uses the promo code BellyUpSports at checkout for $20 off his order so that his tickets come in cheaper. And yeah, our local hockey team, the Adirondack Thunder, off to a great start. By the way, one of their number one goaltender, Jeremy Brodeur, son of the GOAT, Martin Brodeur.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully he'll be in action on the 17th when we go see the Adirondack Thunder. But in addition to local professional hockey games, you can go see the NHL. You can go see the NFL. Major League Baseball, you'll have to wait till April.
Yeah.
But the NBA is back if you're into that thing. But it's not just sporting events. There's also concerts, comedy shows, musicals, anything that requires a box office ticket. You can find it at SeatGeek.com. And again, use promo code BellyUpSports for $20 off your order of $50 or more. Get yourself some savings. Use that promo code. It helps the network. It helps our show. Go to SeatGeek.com. Use that special pricing tool. The green dot tells you it's the best deal for the best price for that particular seat. And again, save yourself some money. Promo code BellyUpSports at checkout. $20 off your order of $50 or more.
I have confirmation from Kenny. The code worked.
Sure. Thank you, Kenny. And thank you, Uncle Other Ryan, for reminding Dustin to remind Kenny to use the promo code to get $20, the $20 savings. All right, let's talk about the most notable performances in the NFL. Oh, it's Daniel Smooth in the comment section after we came back from break. During break, he said she can skate on me, referring to Avril Lavigne. You're an engaged man, sir. What would your woman think if he said that? Well, you can tell us later. Most notable performance from NFL Week 9, and I've got myself two, because again, on Saturday's show, I had my eye on Derrick Henry, not because he's in my fantasy team, but because I wanted to see how he would fare against this Denver Broncos defense. And Denver Broncos defense coming into this game, third ranked in the league against the pass, decent against the run. Derrick Henry doing Derrick Henry things, over 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. But in the backfield, Lamar Jackson put up a perfect quarterback rating. 16-19, 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, sacked only once. But I'm curious to see how long they keep this pace up, because we saw this last year. The first half of the year. The Ravens defense was absolutely on fire. The rushing attack wasn't. Now that they have Derrick Henry in the backfield, I'd have to think that this pace can keep going. But last year we saw it was a hot pace at first, cooled off towards the end of the year. AFC Championship game shows up and everything just seems to fall flat in their face offensively. But this offense is picking up where they left off last year, and now with the addition of Derrick Henry, which was probably one of the best, arguably one of the best signings of the offseason. Yeah, because you saw Derrick Henry was going to say, "Yep, my time in Tennessee is over. I'm out." You see the Ravens picking him up, and he'd say, "Yep, it's over. It's over." This team just got exponentially better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, the funny thing is, after all the bemoaning of the death of the running back, and anybody can run the ball. Look at the two arguably best signings of the offseason: Saquon Barkley to the Eagles and Derrick Henry to the Ravens, both carrying their teams at points this season.
Yep. And you know what? Dallas could have had either one of them.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing. I shouldn't be laughing. But they thought bringing Zeke back was a better option, Ryan. Who both agreed, mutual parties agreed that he wouldn't be traveling with the team this past week. So,
hey, Bishop Bullwinkle, was it a good idea for the Cowboys to bring back Ezekiel Elliott? Whoa!
Hell no, to the no. Hell to the no. Hell to the no. To the no.
Didn't want to spend the money. Spent all that money on Dak Prescott. Now he's got a torn hamstring. Spent all that money on CeeDee Lamb because he held out. Now you're going to lose Micah Parsons in the offseason. It's rebuild time. And if Jerry could fire himself, I'm pretty sure he would, but he can't. Anyway, Dustin, most notable performance or performances in Week
Well,
9 for you.
honorable mention to the Rams defensive line because they obviously dominated the line of scrimmage, sacking Geno Smith 8 times. Poor Geno running behind that offensive line, which, as Staniel and I both know, and I'm sure if Kevin were here, he'd say the same thing. It's a revolving door this year. It's not good. But my standout performance, and I thought long and hard about this one. I said, who am I going to pick? And to me, I just had to pick him. Jackson Smith Njigba. He had 7 receptions for 180 yards.
Homer alert.
My apologies. It's been a Seahawks heavy show the last 3-4 weeks or whatever. I've worked them in there. But he had 7 receptions for 180 yards and 2 TDs. He was constantly, whoever was covering him for the Rams could not cover him. Because let me tell you this, he had a couple big catches too that were called back via false start penalties and things of that nature. This was a very sloppy game. It's why I had no business. I was not going to pick it as my most entertaining game, even though it could have been the way that it ended. But it just made me so angry, and it was so sloppy, and there were penalties, and there were so many things. And I don't like picking games that make me angry, you know. But Jackson Smith and Jigba, he did a great job this week. He stepped up when with DK out. Who is your performance that really stuck out to you this week?
Oh, I already mentioned it.
Oh, yeah. That's right. You did go first. We went on that brilliant soliloquy about Derrick Henry.
And Avril Lavigne.
Yes, my apologies. I don't know why. I think I'm still getting over the effects of the extra live stream. That's what I'll go with.
Yeah, let's go with that. All right, our last category for Week 9: hottest individual take from the week that was Week 9. Dustin, I'm going to have you lead off your hottest individual takeaway after Week 9.
Well, I wrote this one a little early. I have to admit, I wrote it early, but I re-examined it before the show. I stand by it. Can we stop with the going for 2? Can we stop with the going for 2 when it is not needed? Analytics be damned. I don't care what everybody says. Oh, the analytics say go for 2 in this situation. Well, what in the blue hell, as Sick Diggy and others would often say, was the reason for Jim Harbaugh going for 2 when he was up huge last week in his game? Oh yeah, wait, it's Jim Harbaugh's MO. He likes to run up the score. He's done it. He did it when he was with the 49ers. He did it back when he was at Stanford. There was that famous exchange when Pete Carroll was at UFC. They walked to the center and Pete's saying, "What's your deal?" That's just Jim Harbaugh. But still, he's doing it when he was up big. The Chargers had that game in hand. There was no need to go for 2, and he's doing it multiple times. What the hell's going on? And then fast forward to this week. Nick Sirianni decides, I'm going to go for 2 when we're up 16-0. I'm going to go for 2. And you know what it did? They didn't get it, and it kept it a two possession game, numbnuts. You could have gone a 3-possession game. Okay? So that's what he does. That's what he does. And then he does it again when they're up 22-0. And he goes for it on the stupid tush push. He doesn't get it. Why are they going for 2? They didn't need to go for 2. That was before the half. And I would say that in the Eagles' case, it kind of backfired. I don't know if he's trying to show up Doug Peterson. I don't know what the hell Nick Sirianni's doing. But then guess what? I would say it lit a fire under the Jags. The Jags probably got a little pissed off. And then they start coming back. And then the Eagles start playing sloppily. They're fumbling. They're doing things. And next thing you know, the Jags were only down by 6 in that game until the Eagles scored late. They would have been down by more than 6. Basic math. If they had just kicked the extra point, they would have been down by more than 6. It still probably would have been unlikely for them to come back, but it gave the Jags a shot, all because you wanted to go for 2 because the analytics said so, or you're trying to shove it in the former Philadelphia Eagles coach face. I mean, it's Nick Sirianni. You never know. But can we stop with the going for 2, please?
Yeah, when when they went up 2 scores and they decided the extra the reason I'm not sure what happened with Nick Sirianni's brain why he decided to go for 2. Because they kicked the extra point. They were up 16-0. They kicked the extra point, which made it 17-0, but there's an offsides penalty on the Jaguars. So he decided, all right, you know what? Let's go for 2. What the heck? Let's go for 2. And they got stopped in the tush push. And I was like, why? It's just
no. He brought it back to a 2-possession game.
This is why Eagles fans are absolutely nuts when it comes to Nick Sirianni. I get it. I understand where Eagles fans like Cool McCain and our friend Jared from Corner Booth. I know why I know why they get so upset at times when they talk about Nick Sirianni. He's like, we need to fire him or he needs to get his act together. So I totally get it. I understand where you're coming from with going for 2 and being so nerdy with the analytics, and it's like, just take the extra point.
Yeah, take the extra point. You're up big. Yeah. You're up. I mean, not big, but you know what I mean. Keep it going. It was like Dan Campbell getting too cute last year, going for it on 4th down all the time.
Yeah, he's a lot more disciplined this year, which is a good thing. But then again, there's been some games where he doesn't have to do that, get too cute because they're up.
Yeah,
he didn't do it as much against Dallas because he absolutely killed Dallas. They did same thing against Tennessee. They didn't have to do it too much, and against Green Bay, they didn't do it too much because they were up. The score line says 24-14, but Detroit absolutely outplayed the Packers.
Yeah.
So when you're playing that well and you feel like you don't have to, like, you feel like you can step on the gas pedal, you don't have to do to the extreme where you get, hey, that's what happens on the highway. You're going fast. You think, I go fast. There's no cops around. Boom. There's a cop right there. You get stopped. He's not doing that as much anymore, which I'm pretty sure our friend Julie from Michigan is very happy about it because they're now 7-1.
Yeah.
And they're the top seed in the NFC currently. My biggest takeaway from hottest takeaway from week 9 is that the title episode is week 9 gave us dogs and frauds, and there's plenty of dogs and plenty of frauds to go around. So if we look at each division, when it comes to potential playoff teams, we're looking at some dogs and some frauds and some potential frauds and some pups. All right. So going around the divisions, AFC East, Buffalo, clear far and away, they're dogs. The Jets, I said that they were partial frauds because they just got off a 5-game losing streak, 5-game losing streak, and they have games where they could win. Now, I don't know if they'll go on a 10-game winning streak, but right now they're frauds, just based on the fact that their offensive line is hurt and defense isn't playing as up to par, especially in the secondary. I don't know what's going on with Sauce Gardner. I know he hurt his foot in Thursday's game, but we'll see. I'll have to look at the injury report for them. The AFC North, Baltimore's dogs. Pittsburgh, I put as pups because they haven't had a game where they really beat an opponent that like a tough opponent. And it's still got the rest of their AFC North scheduled coming up. But I gotta see what they got to do for the rest of the year. They just picked up Mike Williams this afternoon. They just picked up another edge rush. So the ghost of Mike Tomlin always seems to show up when we say, "Oh, this is the year they could finish under 500." Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. So the AFC North, Baltimore is definitely dogs. Pittsburgh are pups. Houston, they're pups. Indianapolis, they're frauds. And I say Indianapolis is frauds because we don't know, because they had 7-0 lead going in the locker room in Minnesota, and they had chances to put it away against the Vikings, but they couldn't. They couldn't do it, and they lost, and they were outscored 21-3 on Sunday night. AFC West, Kansas City, they're dogs. Denver, I don't know about Denver. I don't know if Denver's if they're pups or potential frauds, based on the fact that they got absolutely just they got boat race by the Ravens on Sunday, because they actually kept it close for a quarter and a half, and all of a sudden Ravens took over and they just kept scoring. They scored so many points in that second half. that Josh Johnson went into the game with like 10 minutes to go in the game. That's how in control that the Ravens were over the Broncos in that game. So the Broncos, I get their defense is great. Offense needs a little work. Needs a little bit of work. And you see some of the mistakes that Bo Nix is making. Got sacked 4 times last week against the Ravens. So they got some work to do if they want to be a playoff team. So I'm calling them partial frauds just because of the way that they're not playing well against good teams. NFC, the East, Washington, Philadelphia. They're not dogs yet. They're pups. So they're going to get in there. Washington, they haven't really beaten anybody of significance as far as I can see. They kept it close against Baltimore. Good for them. They still lost that game. Philadelphia, I don't know who they are. Offensively, I don't know who they are because Nick Sirianni can't seem to make up his damn mind about what he wants to do with Jalen Hurts. And Saquon Barkley is literally and figuratively carrying this team on his back,
Mm-hmm.
like he did with the Giants. So you figured he'd be a tool in that offensive system, just be a cog in the offense. Doesn't have to put too much pressure on him. But now, well, guess what? Now he's getting the weight of the world on his shoulders and his back in Philadelphia. NFC North, Detroit, dogs, absolute dogs. Minnesota, pups. Jury's kind of still out on them. Green Bay, partial frauds, but Jordan Love's fighting an injury. They got good defense. They got ball hawks in the secondary. But on Sunday against the Lions, not great.
Yeah, it was tough.
Bears, frauds. After this week against the Cardinals, they're absolute frauds. NFC South, Atlanta, they're pups. I call them pups, even though they have a 3 or 4 game winning streak now. They still have the rest of the division to play. Or they still not the rest of the division, but they still have a schedule to play for the rest of their games. And Tampa could very well catch them, even though they swept them. But I call them pups because Drake London got hurt. I don't know if he's going to be. I don't know if they put it on IR, but he got hurt in that game against Dallas. But they still have a decent, and then their defense is pretty good too. Tampa Bay, partial frauds. I want to see what they do with the rest of the schedule. Then we have the NFC West, the curious case of the NFC West. Arizona, the Rams, San Francisco. I call them all pups. Arizona, I'm still, like I said, don't know who they are. The Rams, they're that scrappy team that like the little dog that nips at your ankles. They're just hanging in there. San Francisco, they're getting healthier. Christian McCaffrey, the window to practice is currently open, so he could be back either this week or next week, just in time for the rest of the year. And Seattle, unfortunately, I'm putting you in the partial frauds category. So
I'm surprised you didn't just put us in the fraud category, but I appreciate the partial there.
Well, their defense is playing well, but their offense needs to pick it up. I understand that having DK Metcalf has been kind of a burden on them because it's their biggest weapon as far as the receivers go. Although Jackson Smith and Jigba is emerging now, so that contract, that albatross of a contract of DK Metcalf could be gone next year. Although the trade deadline was today. NFL trade deadline was today. We had a lot of movement. Washington picks up Marshawn Lattimore from purgatory that is New Orleans.
Yeah, that's a big signing for them.
It's a huge pickup for them. As I mentioned with the Steelers, picked up Mike Williams from the Jets for a 5th round pick. They picked up an edge rusher. Detroit picked up an edge rusher. So quite a bit of movement today. It was a very important day for the NFL in that term. So, but I'm not quite ready to put Seattle in the fraud category until they lose another game. So I'll be fair. So,
right.
But yeah, with Arizona, Rams, San Francisco, they're not dogs. They're more like pups because it's gonna be a very interesting division to watch.
Yeah,
the rest of the way. All right, before we get out of here, let's just clean up the comments real quick. Welcome to saying local hot take. I like Grumpy Joe Burrow.
I mean, he did throw for how many touchdown passes this week? Was it 4 of them?
Well, it was against the Raiders.
Yeah, it
so-
was, but maybe he's Joe Cool is a little mad here.
Yeah,
Who
I'm
knows?
surprised that I'm really surprised that Hendrickson didn't get moved today. But whatever. NFL. That's different. Kevin Wilson, Belly Up Fantasy Sports, saying, "Dogs, who are the big cats?" Great question.
Yeah.
He also says, "We don't want to talk about the NFC West, do we, Dustin?"
It's not great right now. It's not great, but I did go in on that Seahawk game earlier in the show, Kevin. If you missed it.
Oh yeah, and then Walker the Saint says Joe Burrow threw 5 touchdown passes with a scowl. LOL. All right, we're going to get out of here. But before we do, I just want to remind you about our social media. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, Twitter, Instagram, scarcely use TikTok @NoCredsREQ, youtube.com/@NoCredsREQ, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and get yourself notified on Twitter. I don't call it X, and on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. That way you know when we go live or if we got a new 3 rails up. Hit that notification bell. You always get know when new material comes up. On the podcast side, rate and review. 5-star rating would be helpful. Review wherever you can review. Leave us a review. Also, on Spotify, if you're a Spotify subscriber, leave a comment, whether it's the OG show like tonight's show, or 3 rails, or any other specials we have. Rate, review, comment, help the show, and engage with the show on social media, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Leave a comment, or on Rumble. Unless you're a thirsty hoe who says, "Oh, great content. I can help you." We're poor. Oh, and don't forget extralife.org. You still have time to put in and help meet Dustin's goal. He just needs $245 more to meet the $1,300 goal. He's going to do another live stream, hopefully in December, with this retro box. We play some Punch Out, show off my Punch Out skills. But you have until December 31st, so we can help raise money for the local children's hospital here in Albany. And that'll do it for this edition of No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are proudly presented by the Belly Up Sports Media Network. Oh, programming note. Next Tuesday's show, we're going to move it up an hour. So 8:05 Eastern, although we'll talk about off air. But Dustin and I have a workshop at one of the local community colleges this coming week. So we'll be a little bit later on Tuesday, but Saturday morning, we're back at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be drinking coffee. We're reviewing Thursday Night Football. We'll be previewing the rest of Week 10 in the NFL. Week 10. Still Week 10 already.
Unbelievable. And we're approaching Thanksgiving. Daylight savings time happened.
Yes.
Much to my chagrin.
Yes. And we will be back. We will be back for our annual Thanksgiving special, our 3rd annual Thanksgiving special. Don't watch the parade. Don't watch the other stuff. Don't watch Santa will come. Santa will come on the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Tune in 10 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning. We'll talk about our favorite Thanksgiving traditions, our favorite Thanksgiving side. We'll do a tier of our favorite Thanksgiving sides. So tune in for that. Again, Thanksgiving morning, which is 3 weeks from Thursday.
Yeah. It's insane.
Good golly. It is fast approaching, but thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching on replay, whether you're listening on podcast, whether you've been watching live with us tonight. We want to thank you. We've been a really good year so far on the podcast side, but again, we'll be back live on Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. The next week's show will start about an hour or so. We'll let you know on social media, but we'll start a little bit or like an hour and 15 start to the show, because we got a workshop going on. So hope you tune into us then. Until next time, until Saturday, we'll talk to you again soon. Go out and vote if you can.
Good night, everybody.